What story you're finally ready to confess? Story 1. I've lied and gotten away many times about being a twin to people who I've just met. I have told countless people over the course of my life I am a twin. I am indeed not a twin. But every time anyone would ask me if I was a twin to someone they saw, I would say yes and never tell the truth. You see, I am of mixed race, 50-50 black and white. I don't see many people like me in my day-to-day life. In school growing up, it was rare to be in a class or even in a school with someone who had my exact skin complexion and hair texture. But whenever I did, people would instantly think me and whoever was also biracial were related. My classmate, later friend, and I were sitting in the same group the first day of school when someone asked if we were twins. I instantly said yes, but that we have different last names because our parents divorced and decided to surrender full custody of one of us and move away to make it fair. He ran with it and we never told anyone. Even the teacher thought we were telling the truth. I've done this numerous times with other biracial people who I encounter and get to know using random lies that sound almost unbelievable but not quite. No one who didn't actually know me has ever suspected me of lying. I do feel bad about certain lies I used because some of my lies were actually kind of heavy and happened in real life. I don't do that joke anymore since I've discovered that the real world is not so funny. Story 2. In 2010, an acquaintance asked me to go work for him selling door-to-door vacuums. I had just lost my job and was desperate. He told me that he planned to run the office soon and I would be sure to sell. I also thought he was cute and believed I had a chance with him. On my first day, I find out he was already dating someone in the same office. She was not very pretty. She was always smiling, which really got on my nerves. It felt so fake. When she wasn't working, she was reading. It was as if she thought she was better than me. Well, she was promoted in the organization and spent less time with her boyfriend. We worked from sunup to sundown Mondays through Saturdays. At that point, he and I began flirting. At first, it was small little things. A little smile here and there. He would let me ride passenger with him when we drove around looking for houses to sell vacuums, etc. I had no loyalties to the girlfriend. Besides, like I said, she got on my nerves. One day, she and the guy get into an argument, and the guy and I were sent to an area far from where the office was. This meant we needed to get a hotel. We spent Valentine's Day together and had a wonderful time. When we got back, he broke it off with her and decided to stay with me. A few days later, she tells him she is pregnant. I thought she was lying. Apparently, it was true. At first, he stayed loyal to me, and I must admit I was not mature about it. I would throw it in her face that he was with me whenever I had a chance. As her belly grew, he grew distant. I realized that he was trying to work things with his pregnant ex. He even humiliated me in front of my coworkers when he told me we were not together. I was so confused. Later, I found out why, and I was not going to let him or her get away with humiliating me like this. The day before their first sonogram, I went to his house. They did not live together. She owned a condo and he lived in a community house with other salesmen. They were planning to move in together once she got rid of her roommates. I went to his place. We had drinks and ended up spending the night together. In the morning, the girlfriend called. He was in the shower, so I answered his phone. When I told her he was in the shower, she flipped. It was so satisfying. I just wish I could have seen her face crying. Well, she quit her job, so I didn't get to throw it in her face that I had won. In a week's time, she moved out of her condo, sold her car, and moved in with her parents. In a week's time, I had ruined her life. She had no home, no car, no boyfriend, and pregnant. I had won. I knew I had finally taken that smile away for good. My now boyfriend was upset that he didn't know where his baby was, though. We decided we were going to take the baby as well. How dare she leave without telling the father where his baby was? I knew we had to have some legal recourse in the matter. We knew which state she was in, and eventually she would ask for child support, and that would be our chance. Eventually, we both forgot about her and the baby and moved on with our lives. Occasionally, she would show up on social media and attack us. We just kept blocking everything so she couldn't write on our social media accounts. Later, I would come to find out that my boyfriend was the one instigating it. He would call her out of the blue looking for her to let him back into her and the baby's lives. She would get upset and retaliate. She didn't want him in their lives at all. I also didn't want him leaving me, so I started to mess with her when I could. After a few years, I found out that he had contacted her again. This time, she was ready to talk and let him see the baby. Not on my watch. I waited until he was asleep and texted her as him that he was still with me. She wrote back that not only was she married, but she also didn't want him back. She just wanted to do the right thing for her son. But since I had already threatened to take her son from her, she changed her mind. She also sent him screenshots of my message to him and told him to kick rocks. Well, after 7 years, I realized he was trouble. He didn't get the office he told me he would run. We were living paycheck to paycheck after he promised we would have the office, money, and an amazing life. He had a son who his mother was raising, and I was going to get to be his new mom. All the plans to get custody of his other son were forgotten. He didn't even pay to support either one. We had to move in with roommates. He was fired, and we both had to go work selling telephones. Then the cherry on top, he took my promotion. That was the last straw. 7 years wasted on this man. He had 2 children that he didn't take care of. What did I get myself into? I let him have it via text and we broke up. I even moved out of state to Hollywood. No, not that Hollywood, Florida. Now I am 46 and feel like I wasted a huge chunk of my life on this man. I decided to make the most of it. I traveled, had a lot of fun, visited my family, made new friends, and tried to pick up the pieces of my life. As the holidays got close this year, I wondered what happened to his ex. I did a deep dive into her life. I found out she got the life she was expecting with her ex. She got the life I expected with my ex. She became an executive in an amusement park and sells homemade marshmallows on the side for fun. Her husband has a business flipping houses. They are both raising the little boy, now a teenager. They are always camping, hiking, and RVing all over the United States. She still has that smile after all. And I realized I am alone for another holiday. Not quite alone. I do have my family that I visit when I can. I ruined this girl's life, and she was able to not just move forward but thrived. That is when I realized I was paying for the consequences of my actions. I wanted to win so bad, but all I got was a consolation prize. I took her problem, our ex, and made it my problem. If they would have stayed together, they would have been the ones living paycheck to paycheck, and perhaps I would have met my Prince Charming. I know that karma is a challenge, but I think I paid for my mistakes. Story 3 IF16. Am really disturbed and embarrassed about what happened last night. I can't keep it a secret. I have school tomorrow and I'm freaking out. My boyfriend, M17, and my teacher, M38, both have the same last name. It's a very common last name, and I never really thought anything of it. I was never really the type of person to send pictures of myself to anyone. But my boyfriend was feeling different one day and asked if we could switch it up. So I agreed since we had been together for 2 years. I spontaneously sent a full-body picture in the shower. There was no reply for about almost an hour. I thought I had done something wrong, or he didn't like the way my body looked. A notification popped up on my phone finally. It wasn't what I was expecting, but I was pleased with the response. It was a picture back of his waist down. I smiled and asked my boyfriend if he wanted to FaceTime and have some fun. He responded almost instantly with a yes. Right before I hit the FaceTime button, I got a message from my boyfriend again with a question mark asking if I was going to send anything. At that moment, I realized I had sent the pictures to my English teacher. The whole time I was not talking to my boyfriend, I was talking to my 38-year-old teacher. Disgust was written all over my face. I want to hide in my room and never come out. I blocked my teacher from my phone. School is tomorrow, and I have no idea what to do. Story 4. So when I was 19, I got pregnant. Because my mother was 17 when she had me, she did not want me to have a child. The only reason for this was extremely selfish, that being she didn't want me turning her into a young grandmother. She then made it her mission to convince my boyfriend to convince me to end the pregnancy. It worked. He told me he didn't want the child, wanted nothing to do with it, and if I continued with the pregnancy, nothing to do with me. She phoned a single mother co-worker of mine and convinced her to take me to lunch and convinced me to end the pregnancy. She threatened me with throwing me out of the house if I didn't end the pregnancy. Now keep in mind I had just started working, so I literally had nothing. Still to this day, my heart hurts because of the decision. I also can't get over letting her get away with her successful plan. I didn't know that was her plan or what she was up to until later in the years when I ran into that coworker who told me everything. Apparently, she wore that guilt too. Story 5. I'm a Viking by blood and I look like one. My outward energy is masculine, imposing, bold. I have long hair that's shaved all around, tattoos on my arms and chest, solid 225 pounds. I turned 35 recently, and in honor of my 5th nexus, I decided to become something greater. The object of living is to become a work of art. I got some black nail polish and started by painting each pointer, child essay awareness. That expanded to the rest of my hands. After that, I found some more colors. My favorite is dark blue and black. If I'm disciplined, the nail polish keeps me from peeling my fingers and cuticles. I also got some rings that duel as fidget toys. I wear them on the first 2 fingers and thumbs. They give me something to do besides pick at my skin. When I was a kid, I used to go bowling and there they had those toy machines. One of them had rings inside. My mom didn't care if I wore them, even if they were generally targeted towards girls. When I got home, my dad saw and he yelled that it wasn't okay for me to do that. He was so homophobic. He's gone now so I can do what I want and I'll never disappoint him again. I started doing my eyes as well, usually on special occasions. Brown pencil on the lower lid is usually enough. Sometimes I do the top and make a little cat's eye flare. I got some green eyeshadow. I posted some pictures to a forum, and people were saying that my eyes look like Cleopatra. One girl I dated liked it and said it made my eyes look bigger. My latest experiment was ordering a dress. I found a punk outfitter with some cool gothic printed dresses. I ordered a few in a 2X. My waist is about 41 inches and my chest is 45 inches. They should fit. I'm pretty excited. I'm straight. I just have some feminine qualities. Story 6, I have a friend who I knew for only a couple of months. We share mutual connections and have probably crossed paths before, but we only met last year. During a weekend outing with our group, we clicked and shared a nice post-event night together, alone. We only talked and bonded, our conversations and body language leaning into the dangerous realm of intimacy without getting physical. And from that moment on, I was into this dude. He's handsome, tall, funny, smart, talented, generous, and attentive, and so wounded. Distance kept us apart, but we talked online for a while after that, as friends chats, then voice messages, then finally a call that lasted a couple of hours. He made it clear we couldn't date or explore at the time, which I respected, and we continued to enjoy flirting with and opening up to each other whenever we talk. He'd been going through a lot for a long time, and I wanted to be there for him. Our inbox was our little space of comfort. I hit a bad spot and generally withdrew from people for about a month after, and I didn't spare my friend, who hadn't been reaching out to me either. Just as I felt ready to properly face the world again and message him, he passed away. We never got to see each other again like we planned to. I still don't know what to do with the whole spectrum of my feelings for him, which I know will remain until the end of my life. So sometimes, when I touch myself, I just say his name and think about what it could have been like if we had a chance. Like he mentioned, we could someday. Knowing him, I'm sure he'd appreciate it. Story 7. My 33F mom, 62, has basically been battling addiction since before I was a teenager. After my father passing and a failed marriage afterwards, I feel like she basically gave up. I started doing the cooking and the cleaning because she wouldn't. I rarely had friends over because I was embarrassed that she smoked in the house, and I was the one doing the upkeep. She moved me away when I was 13, and it only got worse. By the time I was 14, I had moved in with my boyfriend and his family because our house was foreclosing and we were homeless. I lived with them for 9 months while she got clean on her own. She got a good job in the town we lived in and eventually had enough to get us a little double-wide rental. I was 15. I remember even though the house was filled with rats at the time, we barricaded ourselves into what would be my room on Christmas Eve so we could spend it together. During the time I lived with my ex, she would hardly call and use the social security that was supposed to be for me from my dad's passing on herself. Flash forward to me being 21. Our relationship is better because we don't live together, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like our relationship was going good. That year, on her 50th 2012 birthday, she decided to get a flu vaccine that would change the course of our lives forever. I'm not here to debate vaccines. This was her first flu shot she had ever received in her life, and she ended up having an adverse reaction, and it almost killed her. Guillain-Barré syndrome is what she had, and it can happen in people when they get their first flu vaccine. It was Christmas Eve, and she was in the hospital in the ICU, almost gone. Thankfully, they were able to save her, but since then, it's been a living nightmare. Coming back from this disease is a long, grueling journey, and she did not handle it well. After losing basically everything, her job, her home, her life, she fell back into her addiction, and bad. Before it was crack, which was tough enough, but now it's meth and heroin, hanging with the wrong people who just use her until they're done. A couple years after what happened, with the help of my grandfather, she received a settlement for people who have adverse reactions to vaccines and got almost $250,000. I also want to mention that my grandfather was paying for her to stay at different motels, only for her to be kicked out of them every single time for having people over she wasn't supposed to or for being too loud. When she received the settlement, she had plans to buy a house on the island we had lived on and retire there. Because of how severe her condition was, she will be on permanent disability and can't work. So it was working out. But she completely blew all the money in less than a year. We were supposed to go to Hawaii to spread my dad's ashes, and that never happened. She gave the money to my aunt for safekeeping, and when she wanted it back to spend on other things, she basically ruined that relationship. My aunt wants nothing to do with her ever again. She's done. She spent the money, and we never went. Last June, she almost burned up in a fire she caused from falling asleep with a candle going. Only thing that saved her was someone seeing the motorhome on fire. She had meth and alcohol in her system. Firefighters said they barely got her out of there. I don't have siblings. I'm not as close with my family as I was when we were kids. I don't see my cousins. I have a partner who I've been with almost 9 years, but he doesn't have any family with addiction, and she's basically been like this our entire relationship, and he sees the damage it does to me. He's protective of my mental health, and I understand that. I try and act like I'm okay, but really I'm so sad and grieving. Grieving the life we could have had. Grieving the mother I won't ever have. Grieving her, and she's still here. I don't think she'll ever get sober before she dies. I see other people my age with their families, and I'd be lying if I didn't say it hurts me inside. I know I shouldn't even have her in my life, but I feel like if I break off all ties, she'll really go off the deep end and probably overdose. It's not like we talk very much at all anyways. I've talked with her maybe a handful or less of times since she was in the hospital last year. She also left the hospital AMA with a pneumonia and other complications going on from the fire. I've had some pretty great life achievements, and she doesn't even really know about them. My coworkers around her age and messaged me words of encouragement the morning of my exam, and I broke down crying because it should have been my mom. And the worst part about all of this is even when she's gone, I can tell I'm going to feel guilty, like I could have done more, even though I know there isn't. She's making this choice. She knows the consequences. I know she won't get clean before she leaves this earth, because last time when I was a teenager and she had to get clean, it was either get clean or I would probably eventually go to the state. And now as an adult, I'm not the reason anymore, I guess. Yes, I've been to therapy and it was all right. I don't think the therapist was a good fit for me, and I'm going to try and find a new one. Anyways, this is my confession. I don't think anyone knows how much I'm actually hurting. I put on a happy face and be strong, but you can only be strong for so long before you break. Story 8. I'm an 18-year-old female, and my mother is 49, turning 50 this September. I love my mother with every part of my being. She's one of the few people in my family I can be around without going crazy. Even in my household, she's the only one I can tolerate, however. I would say she's the main reason I never want to have children. For context, almost 4 years ago, I lost my grandmother to the pandemic, and less than 24 hours after her passing, a family member contacted her. I won't go into the context of the call, just know they effectively downplayed my mother's grief and stress because she didn't want to help the family member gather info for something petty. My mother has a health condition that caused her doctors to strongly recommend she not lift anything heavier than a gallon of milk. However, she's a stress cleaner. So after the call, she was just so angry, so hurt that someone she viewed as a brother would say that to her. She started cleaning by herself late at night when everyone else was asleep, and tried to move something in the kitchen to clean behind there. Ever since she did that, her health has taken a nosedive. Now fast forward to present day, I'm my mother's caregiver. We're trying to sign me up so I can be paid for doing so. My mom can hardly walk, so I have to get her food, drinks, her medications, and I need to constantly keep my door open so I can make sure she isn't going to fall and hit her head. It's happened multiple times, both when I'm home and not home. I've taken care of her while I'm well, while I'm in pain, or while I'm sick myself. I'm a soon-to-be college student. I have a relationship with my boyfriend I need to maintain, and I want to have a life outside of being responsible for my mother in school. I have a sister, 18F, we're twins, who does close to nothing for my mother and the house. The most she'll do is maybe go out to a deli or something to buy my mom a drink or snack we don't have in the house, or go to the mall because I can't go there due to sensory issues that'll put me out of commission for a couple hours when I come home. My chores compared to my sister feel so unfair, especially compared to how many times we have to do them in a certain time frame. For example, I have to wash dishes and put them away. That needs to be done 2 to 3 times a day. I have to wipe down the stove, which normally is done every other day, maybe every 2 days if I can get away with it. My sister has to put away the food after dinner, which is only once a day if you don't count the days we don't cook or do fend-for-yourself nights. Then she needs to do the bathroom every other Sunday, which ends up going longer because she constantly forgets to do it, and guess who ends up doing it? Me. Which brings me to my confession. Everything about my situation makes me realize I'll never be in a place where I'll ever want children. Yes, I'll give myself credit in saying I can be an amazing multitasker. I love my baby cousins and I love helping family babysit. However, I can't keep doing this every single day. The only free time I get is whenever my mom is taking a nap, and even that doesn't have a set schedule. If having a baby is any worse than this, I think I'll go insane by the first week. Maybe I'm just overdramatic, and I know it could be so much worse. However, I really just can't tell if I'm a selfish person or if this has, for lack of a better term, traumatized me or turned me away from the thought of being a mother. Granted, I know if I have children, I would have help, but I've been taking care of another person for 4 years, and I just don't think I can do this for 18 years. I would go as far as saying if I ever had an interest in nursing, I would have picked a new field, because I think the only reason I've tolerated this for so long is because I feel like on some level I'm paying back my mom for the years she took care of 2 children, more or less on her own. It just sucks knowing I'll probably never give her the chance of being a grandmother. Maybe I'll come around to it someday, but I can promise you it's not in the foreseeable future. Story 9. In November of 2022, my company had an outing for the managers. After the outing, one of my bosses, 43-ish F, and not my direct boss, had the idea to go out for drinks afterwards. Me, 24F at the time, being the eager lower-level manager, decided to go to have some fun and bond with people I didn't interact with at work. About 6 managers in total went out for drinks, but the boss lady was the most senior ranking. She was getting increasingly drunk, and at the end of the night when she wanted to go home, I told her I'm driving because I had 1 total drink in the 3 hours we were there, while she was knocking back the margs. On our way to her house, she asked to go to another bar for more drinks, which I said yes, as I was already designated driver at that point. After we left the second bar, I drove her straight to her house. She was so drunk I got out of the car to basically carry her to the house, and that's when she asked if I wanted to kiss her. I said no, as that's inappropriate since she's my boss, but she kept on insisting that we should kiss. I definitely got caught up in the moment, and we had a short making out session in her driveway. She invited me up to her room, and I said no, and walked her to the door. After that, we became friends and went out for drinks plenty of times, but only vaguely mentioned that incident twice where I told her not to worry about it and that I wouldn't say anything. A few months after that first kiss, we went out for drinks again with a former coworker, 45-ish M, and ended up in a club because in my drunken stupor, I had the idea to go, and they went along. At the end of the night, she told me to go home with her, and I did, where we had sex. The morning after, we went to a fancy restaurant that she picked out, and it felt like a date. At that breakfast, though, she told me about a guy that she was seeing and constantly talked about him to me after that day. We continued to ignore the fact that anything physical happened between us, But at work, it was obvious she started boosting my ratings and highlighting my performance to the other managers at her level. I even dog sat for 3 weeks while she went on vacation with no payment. We became what I thought was actual friends, and I even told her I am a lesbian, but can't come out because of my family. A year after that first company outing, we had another one, where she asked if I wanted to hang out with her and her cousin, who I met before in one of the times we went out. I said yes, as I always did. When we got to the bar, she said her cousin couldn't make it. We both decided to get drunk to have fun, and I ended up in her house because she said I should go home with her instead of taking an Uber home, which I told her I was going to do. When we got to her house, she told me to sleep in her bed and then started kissing me again, which led to sex one last time. Again, we did not mention any physical interaction after the night was over. A few months into 2024, we had a disagreement about a mutual friend's drama, and she said that she wishes she never started hanging out with me, and that our friendship was inappropriate since she was a higher level than me. Since that comment, I haven't spoken to her because it sounded like she was blaming me for what happened between us. She also has never contacted me. I miss her friendship, but I'm not sure what she ever saw us as. I'm so confused about all this, and it hurts me when I think about her. Story 10. I was around 14 and a half. When this happened, a regular kid who played soccer. Now and again, I wasn't keen on books and just talked a lot. I was your average high school kid. However, on a Sunday morning at 9:30-ish, I was in a heated argument over what I said about this overweight kid as a joke. The night before, although my best friend who I got into an argument with, he was called Prez, took it the wrong way. As the overweight kid was new and was self-conscious, I understood why he was angry at the comment. After a while and just said, "Okay, I'm sorry, man. It was stupid. I won't say anything like it again." Since we were best mates, I thought he would come to terms with me. However, he instead turned to almost a different person. He started saying my mom was a hoe and I should hurt myself. Obviously, I wasn't happy. He then started spreading rumors around school for the next week and a half. I never even saw him on school grounds that whole week. At that point, I had enough and went to this website called 4chan and made a thread talking about the issue. Now I did have anger issues, which was the reason I said in the thread along with the story, I hope he gets hurt badly. If anyone can do that, do it. Now, with the nature of the website, someone said they would consider doing it in the replies, and then hundreds of people came together and said they would do it too. Now, obviously, I didn't mean it. I was just upset. But with me writing down his number, where he lived, and his name, I was sure something bad was going to happen to me. I didn't know how to delete the thread, so I just kept it up, hoping nobody would harm him in any way. And I could maybe go to get help, because something was defo wrong with me putting stuff like that up when I'm that upset. 3 weeks had passed, and I had almost forgotten about the situation. Me and Prez were friends after sorting out our rivalry, and yes, we did fight. However, the thread was still up at that point, just left in the open. Now, that same night, 3 weeks later, Prez was found shot on his front porch with around 5 bullet holes in his spine and lower back. After his mom walked out, wondering if he was almost back, and boom, it's her son there in front of her. There was an investigation into what happened, and it seemed a 26-year-old male had shot him. I didn't get much else from any other sources besides the local paper, which my mom showed me at breakfast 6 days after he was found. I've looked back around 19 times since it happened, and the thread I made has since been deleted to my knowledge. It's the fact I've never told anyone this, and it's about time I did. Story 11. I love my boyfriend, and he is now amazing, and we've come so far. However, his best friend gives me the butterflies. I dream about him, and every time we see each other, it's playful fights and constant conversation and eye contact. Someone who's completely confident. For a little background, just before I started college, I had a friend, let's call him H, and we stopped talking when he got a new girlfriend. But recently, him and his girlfriend broke up. We started hanging out in groups again, and eventually me and him started getting closer, spending nights at each other's houses. I honestly felt like he got me. I was also friends with his best friend, let's call him R, who hung out with us every day, and at the time I had no feelings or thoughts about R, as I was so focused on H. Things progressed between me and H, and we started dating as we went to college. We chose different colleges. His ex-girlfriend got in contact with him about her current boyfriend. which my boyfriend H replied to and helped her. Keep in mind, for some context, they were on and off dating for over 2 years, and she didn't exactly have amazing friends. This eventually turned into meeting each other at college. This is where they started messaging and talking a bit more. I explained to H it was making me uncomfortable with how much contact they had when originally it was about her boyfriend, only to find her and her boyfriend broke up. After I explained it made me uncomfortable, they'd secretly message on WhatsApp in which I'd catch him, but not say anything. I know, massive mistake on my part. Then one day H broke up with me out of the blue on text. We kept speaking as friends until R started to act weird about H. This is when I found H and his ex kissed whilst me and H were dating, which led to the sudden breakup, and R was trying to make H tell me out of respect. My whole world broke apart, so I decided to cut contact with H. R was there for me through this whole process. He lives quite close to me, so we'd have horror film nights and overall just spent time together. Until one day the movie nights turned into cuddle nights as well. He never stayed round and he never pushed any boundaries. He'd barely put his arms on me, which I understand why. This is where I began seeing him in a different light. It was quite nice having him around, and I began to realize how attractive he was as well, which he always was, but I never looked deeply into it. Then one night he was texting H, in which he explained he was at mine, and H replied asking R if I'd ever speak to H again. I said possibly, but not now, and that's what R told H. R told me that H was quite depressed and really made a huge mistake. There was a conversation back and forth, and R explained that maybe we'd be a trio again, and that might help everyone out. So H came to mine, and we all watched movies. This was an odd experience, as I had both of them squeezed next to me in bed. They both slept round that night, and H slid his way back into my life. Things progressed, and H cut complete ties with his ex, and explained that she used to be quite abusive towards him, and he was scared of her harming herself. Of course I didn't believe him until we looked through old messages between the two of them together, and it was extremely clear. I forgave him, but continued to explain that going back to how it used to be will be hard for me, as he did lead me and his ex both on. He blocked her, and we both moved on, and he is extremely loving towards me. He does feel guilty at times and cries to me about the whole situation. As much as I love my boyfriend, he isn't very confident, and at times I feel that I have to carry conversations. R and H stopped talking as much, so I didn't see R as much as I used to. However, recently he has been playing games with us online, and I saw him on our day off. And honestly, the whole time I was thinking about how we cuddled and used to talk nearly every day, and all I can think about is kissing him. But I don't think these random urges and dreams are normal, because I love my boyfriend and would never want to hurt him, and I love our future plans, and he has similar interests and beliefs as I do. Should I ignore these weird feelings or push R away? But he's an amazing friend, and morally, me and him wouldn't happen in the first place, because H and R are friends, and morally it would be wrong either way. But I can't stop thinking about a secret kiss, and I feel like a disgusting person. Story 12. In 8th grade, I was tormented by a really brutal bully. I couldn't complain to the administration or my parents because reporting was considered socially unacceptable. So you just had to take it unless you found a way to get even. The school I attended had an incinerator used to dispose of most non-food waste. It was fascinating to sneak over to it, raise the door, and see the ashes sparkling inside. The penalty for getting caught made it even more tantalizing. A trend spread through my class that year. If you left your locker unlocked but made it look locked, you could get in and out faster during class changes and have more time to say, pick on some random kid. My bully followed this trend, and I noticed that he did. On the day before the day to turn in textbooks and get new ones for next semester, I sought revenge. I opened my bully's unlocked locker, took out all of his textbooks, and locked it for real. Then I threw the books in the incinerator. In an hour, they were indistinguishable from the other ashes. The next day, my bully had no textbooks, nor an explanation for them being missing. All the lockers were opened and cleared out as part of the textbook switching process, so somebody must have swiped them wasn't much of a defense. Most students were from military families, and a demand from the school to pay for the missing books was one my bully's father, an E5 and real tough guy in his own right, could not ignore. It was around $20, in $1972, a considerable sum at the time. Dad paid for the loss and then made my bully pay for it too by shaving his head. At that place and time, a shaved head was as humiliating a haircut as possible. The ridicule of his peers got so bad that my bully ran away from home. I didn't hear anything else about him until about 3 months later, when shockingly, his body was found under a railroad bridge some 50 miles away. He had encountered a child killer who had assaulted and strangled him. The crime remains unsolved. Story 13. I am confessing that I had a fling with a girl online once. I lied about my age and everything, claimed I was 19, and went along with it for a long time. I don't understand why. I lied to an entire friend group. I had feelings for her that were real. She had real feelings for the made-up me. Made-up name and everything, but I couldn't stop the lie. She was 16. I don't know why she wanted to be with a 19-year-old or why I posed as one. I was 15 at the time I made this lie. Puberty hit me hard. I sounded like a middle-aged man, and I lied my way into someone's heart. Because of me, she hates herself today because I decided that the lie had gone on for too long. Now we are both 18 and I need to confess. Tell the truth, I need to apologize. This is on my bucket list before one day I eventually die. I hope the truth doesn't hurt her more. Maybe it will because we have secretly worked our way back together a couple of times, even with me already in a relationship, but it never turned back into what it was the first time. I never let it go that far. It would have been too big of a risk. I don't know why, but this lie haunts me every day. I hate myself for it, and I need to apologize before we drift too far apart. The hard part is she hates my guts. The harder part is I was a very confused teenager that led her on and only thought of her as an object. This need to apologize won't go away, but I don't even think I should try because then I would be re-entering her life and maybe she has bettered herself. It sucks because deep down I know that selfishness got her attached and I didn't care about how she felt at the time even though I found myself adoring her at times. I treated her well, don't get me wrong, I just don't know where to go or how I see myself. It's a coin and I find myself very two-sided. I either cared about her or she was someone who gave me attention. I have changed for the better. I have become more self-restrained. The problem is I will never forgive myself. Should I reach out? Confession over. Logging off. Story 14. I am 17. 2 years ago, I started to have a crush on a girl for her body. She is beautiful to me. I forgot to tell that I am a person struggling with addiction to adult content for the last 3 years. I started trying to quit my addiction, and then I came to know about NoFap and tried to change myself. A few months later, I was unrecognizable. I had clear skin, a fit body, and sky-high confidence. Then I became like a Sigma of the class and forgot about my bad feelings toward that girl. Another few months passed, and again, some good changes came with NoFap. These changes sort of attracted her toward me. The feelings bloomed again, but this time it was not for her body, it was for her kindness and her personality. We started to have eye contact during classes for many minutes. Exams came and we all got stressed and busy with our studies. I slipped and lost my longest streak after exams. My stress made me relapse. After exams, we all got promoted to the next class. We were divided in streams due to our different subjects. So my time to meet her was less. My confidence level went low as I lost my every single benefit of NoFap. I was scared to talk to her, and a guy who was a player made her fall in love. Now they both are together, and I am alone suffering with my struggle and the pain of seeing them together. I feel bad for that girl as I think that guy will leave her after getting what he wants. I did many things to forget her, but I was unable to move on. Is this true love that is not letting me forget about her? Story 15. So for some background, my ex and I dated for about 6 months. During the end of our relationship, he moved back to his hometown and confessed he cheated on me. So that's why we broke up. He made me learn what love was like, and a lot of my self-character development was thanks to him. I truly did love and care for him, so it took me a while to get over him and what he did. We met back in high school and we really were so close, like dating your best friend. We got along so well and he was truly so funny. The type of person that was well liked by everyone and could make anyone laugh. After we broke up, years later, I met my now husband, and he's truly so perfect and great for me. I'm glad I'm with him now instead of my ex because of what he did to me. My husband cares for me, is so thoughtful, really reliable. He taught me that it's okay to be sad, how to let out my feelings healthily, and he's very patient with me. My life really got so much better because of him. We've been together for about a year now, and we don't have children yet, but hopefully soon. I truly can't wait to spend the rest of my life with him. I'm so lucky I found him. We immediately clicked and got along so well, I think we knew we loved each other straight away. So to explain the title, recently I heard from friends that my ex has moved back to my area. And months after hearing that news, I've been having dreams of my ex. Specifically, dreams of me still dating my ex. Like we'll be out together and that. But my husband isn't in the dreams at all, like he doesn't exist. And I've been having these dreams like once or twice a month. Having these dreams makes me feel so guilty. Like, why am I still having dreams of my ex years after we broke up? Maybe I subconsciously still am not over him, but having these dreams is wrecking me with guilt. Anyway, I just wanted to confess this since I can't get it out of my head. Story 16, I was in this school where most students were girls and there were only 6 boys the whole grade. This was primary school, one of which is me. I was a soft, gentle guy. I did have some problem socializing, which did get me looked at as the weird and awkward guy to be around. But I was good at studying at the time, so I did make some friends teaching my classmates. Then there was this guy, I'll call him S. S was annoying and known to be the biggest troublemaker of the entire grade. And that's what he did with me. He'd mess around with me so much that I couldn't even focus on study. And every time I had a wound or injuries, he would mess with it. This had gotten so bad, my grades dropped from my usual 3.54 or 3. Although it might not sound that bad, my parents were strict about my grades, so much so that they'd hit me if I got grades equal or lower than 3. The hit count depended on how low my scores were. So one day I started planning to get back at him. I needed some kind of way that wouldn't ruin my reputation of this nice, gentle, and soft guy, because I couldn't bear it due to my social anxiety and stuff. Then I found the spot that he would walk past every day to get home. The plan was I'd grab him from behind, then I would go away since there were no security cameras there. A few days later, the plan was on. I saw him walk past, and then I started to follow with a grab to his neck. After a while, he was unconscious and I made my escape. It wasn't until weeks later that I would find out that he had to go to a hospital and stayed there for 3 weeks after that. I don't know if I should be regretting this or not. Story 17. I, 23 male, want to start this post by saying, please don't feel bad for me. I deserve everything coming my way. I can't stop lying to those I love, my parents, my brother. As of late, I'm flat broke, stopped unemployment, moving into my parents' house. And it all started when I was working with a temp agency, and it all looked good for a while. But I don't know what came over me because I just stopped wanting to show. But after a couple warnings of my occurrences, I was told that if I got one more, then they would have to cancel my contract. I wasn't worried at the time, when I should have been, and stayed up late that night gaming with my buddies and had woken up halfway through when my shift was. And instead of calling my assignment and letting them know I wanted to still come in, I just felt ashamed of myself and never called. 2 days later, the temp agency that put me on the assignment called me and asked me why I wasn't at work and why my assignment was canceling my contract with them. For some reason, I was able to squeak out the truth to them, and they told me that they weren't going to put me on any more assignments, understandably so. And after that, I lied to my parents as to why I was no longer working with the temp agency because I was scared of their reaction. I ended up going to unemployment and lying to them too as to why I wasn't working with the temp agency. And after a month, unemployment started investigating about the temp agency because they got 2 different stories of why I stopped working with them and wanted me to tell them why I was fired. And I panicked and got my parents to help me lie to unemployment as to why. Their name isn't anywhere on the claim, so only I am responsible. And I put in the claim and forgot about it. And eventually unemployment wanted me to have an in-person meeting for resume help and job search help. And I didn't want to go to that, so I lied to my parents about attempting to schedule it until about a week till the due date. And then I actually did call unemployment to attempt, and the office was fully booked through my due date, and told me to try a different office that wasn't close. And I told my parents about it, and they told me that my car wouldn't make it to a different office. They're not wrong. My car is a piece of junk that never got the care it needed. But to see if I could call them and set up a video meeting. The first 2 days of the week, I lied about calling them and scheduling not working. And then the rest of the week, the number for the office was actually super busy and no calls were going through. After the due date passed, I just forgot about it and ended up getting a job at McDonald's. And I've been working that since, but today I got a call regarding the temp agency, and I decided to come clean. And I'm pretty sure they are going to decide I was overpaid, and I'm probably going to have to pay it all back. And I don't want my parents to pay it, because they have been basically keeping me alive this whole time. And it's eating at me. I am tempted to leave my stuff here for my parents to take and sell, to repay some of what they used on me, and just leave and ghost my family, hopefully taking my mistakes with me. Story 18. For context, I'm turning 14 in September, and I went to a party where a friend of family's daughter is also turning 14. This was in August, by the way. By the time I got to the party, I was ready to have some fun. Before I get into detail, I don't dance, and I'm kind of an introvert. Anyway, a couple minutes go by. I'm talking to everyone who is there, and my mom says it's time I should have my first drinks. Only just getting into this drinking business, I'm thinking, why isn't it hitting me? We arrived there at like 8 and I started drinking at 9. It's now like 10 p.m. and it hasn't hit me. So I decided to go all out and started pouring myself a double vodka Coke. 3 of these later and I'm buzzed. By now the birthday girl has done her makeup and put on a beautiful dress and came downstairs with all her friends. Throughout the whole party, my mom made it very clear that all the girls here are not related to me. It was now 11 p.m. when I was actually drunk. My mom was laughing herself silly. British humor, by the way. Me being drunk and not knowing which of the 5 girls is the birthday girl, I'm chilling, and then they announce beer pong. I would like to say I'm a pretty competitive guy, so I'm swerving, trying to make it in and miss. Then a girl comes up behind me and holds me, and boom, I make it in. I just threw my hands in the air and hugged her. And now it was 12 a.m. when I'm wasted. I'm falling over. My mom and like 3 adults pointing at me laughing because the girls have got me dancing. Again, I don't dance. I'm having a good time. By now I've had around 5 double vodka Cokes and like 2 triple vodka Cokes. I'm dancing with a girl and one decides to mess with my drink. Someone gives me a Coke with 4 shots of vodka or 5 shots, I don't know. After all that dancing, I've figured out who the birthday girl is because I heard her saying something along the lines of, "The boy in there, he's really cute. We should invite him to my parties more often." So I walk in there and I said something like, "You think I'm cute? Well, I think you're cute." And she says thanks, but she's into older guys. But drunk me didn't accept that answer, so I got more drunk. By 1 a.m., she turns to me on the dance floor and I think asks if I ever dance, and I said no, so she's actually teaching me to dance. I think she was pretty drunk at this time. Not as drunk as me, because she can remember more than me. After the dancing, I'm sat down on the couch, and this guy who I think I've seen once comes in more drunk than me and just starts kissing his girlfriend in the corner. By now, everyone is a bit uncomfortable, so we put on slow music to put everyone into a good mood, kind of. I'm slow dancing with the birthday girl, let's just call her Maisie. Me and Maisie are slow dancing with other people on the dance floor, and I turn to look her in the eyes like you're supposed to do, and she asks if I've ever kissed anyone, and I haven't. So I said no. Why? And next minute, I've kissed her on the dance floor. Now we're on the couch and we're kissing, and my mom pops her head around the corner, and all she said is, "I knew you would do something like this, so don't be doing anything more than just kissing." Sufferty stayed in that category, but we could have gone further, which we didn't, so I'm having a blast. 13-year-old me has had his first drink and first kiss all in one day with loads of girls. By 2 am I'm not as drunk. I'm starting to sober up, and I'm still sitting there kissing Maisie every now and then, and I'm sat there on the couch and I see her dad, and idiot me says, "Your daughter's an amazing kisser." And as soon as I said that, I thought I was going to get punched or something, but he just said, "Yeah, mate, she gets it from her mom. You're like her 4th kiss." And I just lay it all out on this dude, just sat there talking about his daughter and how beautiful she is, and still don't know how I'm not dead by this man. but we talk and I go upstairs to go have a piss. And I hear her speaking to her friends about how she might ask me out. So after I'm done, she sees me walk out of the bathroom, and all I think I said is like, "You're cute too." For the rest of the night, I sat upstairs with her watching Netflix, and I fell asleep in her bed. No, we didn't do anything else. Not to my knowledge anyway. It's now 4 p.m. after I woke up to her nudging me to get up. I think I only woke up after she kissed me to say I need to go home. After all this, I get home, and my mom is sat there with my dad, and they're giving me the stare. So I said out of the blue I didn't do anything besides kissing. Apparently I had a boner every time she kissed me, and they were a bit mad at me. Story 19. About 10 or so years ago, I was taking a vertebrate zoology course. It was extremely interesting and very intricate, so most exams were open everything, meaning we could use anything for the exams and we could work with others. You may think this is easy, but it was a 400-level class, and the professor made the tests brilliantly, where pretty much nothing was simple to find. He also chose his wording extremely carefully. If you think otherwise, I encourage you to discover the intricacies of all the important evolutionary steps between odontodes, early teeth, and mammalian lungs today. However, that is neither here nor there. So come our final exam, myself and a girl from my class were working together, and I was very confident in myself during this class, as I did well in it, mostly because I loved the class. We went through the exam feeling like we aced most of it, and then we got our exams back. We did okay, but slightly less well than normal, and of course we go through what we got wrong. One question we got wrong was verbatim. True or false, the evolution of a secondary palate allows mammals to breathe and eat at the same time? And we answered false, as it seemed like an obvious trick question, since you obviously can't breathe while eating, but you can breathe while chewing. I was very annoyed by this as I was extremely confident in this answer. Like I said, the professor was very careful with his wording, and you cannot swallow and breathe at the same time. I would only argue with a professor if I knew 100% that I was correct, so I put an ungodly amount of time into figuring this out. Hours of looking into notes and the hardest to find articles about the evolution of mastication and mammalian digestive science, and I still didn't understand why I got the question wrong. Then it dawned on me, what is the actual definition of eat? And this is where my regret began. I had this ingrained and subconscious misconception that the word describes swallowing as well as putting food in your mouth and chewing. So I literally cannot stop thinking about it to this day, and I kind of still want to argue with the professor that he should have used better wording, but I think that is just to cope about me being wrong. Story 20, I can't talk about this to anyone. I'm the mother, you're your grandmother. I'm supposed to be the strong one. I'm not supposed to make mistakes. I'm supposed to be always energetic when I come home from work. I'm supposed to be able to handle everything. But in reality, I struggle. So here's the backstory. My youngest daughter struggles with bipolar 1 disorder and is a recovering addict. We have been doing everything we can to help her since she was little. When the kids at school called her Bucky the Buck-Toothed Beaver, we got her braces. When she wanted to cheer, dance, pageant, model, we made sure she got to do it. We tried to do that with all 3 of our kids, but I believe most parents do the same. When she was almost 15, she began showing signs of bipolar. It was hard. She had moments of rage, running away, suicide attempts, you name it. The doctors all said the same thing. It wasn't impossible, but it would be difficult for her to become totally independent of us. Then came the substances. She nearly lost her life more times than I can count from overdosing on meth. She was even sexually assaulted. That last one got her to decide to sober up. She checked herself into rehab over 100 miles from home and sobered up. Now came the hard part. Just when she began to get her life in order, she met someone. He treated her well at first. Then she got pregnant. And you guessed it, he left her. She was in pieces. My husband and I supported her in every way we could. She began to look at going to school, but she knew she had to wait until the baby was born. In the meantime, I am working full-time outside in the weather and running constantly. When I started that job, I weighed over 230 pounds. Now I weigh 165 due to the constant physical labor. My husband is retired due to his bad health. He has suffered a stroke and low blood pressure, diabetes, you name it. When my grandson was born, we knew the hard work was upon us. My daughter has to have rest because she was off all her meds and we were concerned that she might harm herself. The first few months were rocky. She had multiple episodes. We had to make sure she and the baby were safe. All of this while taking care of my son, who broke an arm and leg in a car accident. He moved in with his little girl in tow. But we made it. My work was my solace. I love my job no matter how stressful it becomes. I feel appreciated at my job and I am good at it. My boss is amazing. But sometimes home is more exhausting than work. My daughter began school and was on a break. But my husband continued to watch my grandson while I worked. She attends school online, but she has to focus. My grandson is now just under 2 years old. Sometimes I feel like she takes my husband for granted by making him watch the baby so much. Last week I came home from work. It was a hot day and I was very tired. She went to several appointments, so my husband had to get up very early and watch the baby. He runs everywhere. She was gone to her new boyfriend's house and left them again. I got home and both of them were in the kitchen. So I went outside to call my son and kind of decompress. I knew my husband was tired. I should have stayed inside and taken over. I was on the phone for just about 10 minutes when my husband banged on the window screaming, holding my grandson. He had gotten into my bathroom and into the cabinet. Yes, I know that I should have locked it up. He found a canister of straight lye. He got the child-proof cap off and it spilled all down the front of him. I freaked out. I made my husband call 911 and I stuck him under cold water in the kitchen sink. He was taken to the emergency room, then airlifted to the pediatric burn center 4 hours away. My daughter is furious but understanding. She knows it was an accident. I drove straight to the burn center. It was the longest 4-hour drive of my life. How could I let this happen? I knew my husband was tired. I can't change anything. I can't say anything. Nothing is going to be good enough to fix this. He is home now, but has to go back this week to be checked. He has burns on his face, arm, legs, even between his toes. I did this. I have to be calm and understanding. My husband was suicidal for the first couple of days after the incident. My son watched over him while I was gone. God protected my sweet grandson. He is healing. But every time I help change his bandages, I see how much it hurts him. My daughter's boyfriend hates me. He says that I am not remorseful. He doesn't see me on my knees at night begging God for grace, mercy, and healing for them, not me. I don't deserve it. God has shown so much mercy on me. My heart understands that it was an accident, but guilt has taken up residence in my heart and reminds me how bad my negligence was. I actually care about my daughter's boyfriend. I've known him for over a decade. He is arrogant, but his heart is genuine. Now I have let my entire family down. Tori 21. A few days ago, I made a post about my brother and not knowing why he hates me. After reading some of your advice, I decided to finally corner him, whether he wanted to talk or not, and finally get an answer. My girlfriend was busy with her Met Gala on Monday, so I basically had the day to myself, and that's when I finally decided to talk with him. Luckily, it was just him and me at my parents' house, so he didn't really have a choice but to talk. He wanted to brush me aside, but surprisingly, I actually stood my ground and told him I'm not leaving until he talks. We can have a one-on-one chat or drag the whole family into it, which finally convinced him to talk. So I asked him, why does he hate me? I never did anything to him. Even growing up, he hated me even when I didn't do anything, and I always tried being friendly. And he just blew up on me, and I kind of regret asking now. He said I was pathetic and a loser, and he doesn't understand how we're related. He said he doesn't understand what my girlfriend sees in me, straight from his mouth. She's a celebrity and you're a loser. He said he doesn't understand how he had better grades growing up. He was taller than me, more athletic than me, and better looking than me. So he doesn't understand why someone like me is living the life I'm living when I should be below him. He brought up me not going to college after high school and how I was a cafe worker in December. He then brought up all his achievements and again said he doesn't understand how it's fair that I get to live the life I'm living while not working for it at all, while he busted his ass to be the best, and he still feels stuck. I don't know why, but I apologized. Maybe because I was a bit shell-shocked by everything he said about me, but that's all I could muster up. I told him that I'm sorry and that I didn't ask for this to be my life, And that ended up pissing him off, and he stormed out of the house as our family came in.